HarangThe DJ.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another session with me, James Prentice, on HarangThe DJ. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next guest, Mr. Dean Chalkley. Hi, Dean. How are we?
Hey, hello, James. How you doing? All right. And everyone listening out there in radio and digital land.
Yeah, it's great to have you on here and to get into it, and catch up and see where you're at and get involved and chat more about the book, I guess.
Yeah.
Back in Ibiza.
Yeah.
A bit of history about you as a music lover, all-round
That's
top
it.
guy, and a photographer. I mean, we're talking about the book, right? Back in Ibiza.
Yeah. I mean, do you know what? We can talk about whatever you like. It's absolutely, and the thing is, like all these things, like the book, and that's how our worlds collide. Well, we say that's how our worlds collided, but maybe our worlds collided many decades ago. and we'll have to reveal that to the listeners in a minute. But I mean, it's like the thing about the book is it's part of a continuum. It's things are going one thing to another thing to another thing, and the book in a way is a bit like a boomerang of culture. We're going back on something that happened many decades ago, and that's maybe where I saw you, James. Maybe you was on top of a podium dressed in a bikini and wearing a blonde wig with big sunglasses on.
That sounds about right. Definitely for back in the day, for sure. Back in the day in Ibiza. I mean, this is the thing, because we actually met officially, I guess, a few weeks back, where you brought the book over to Bologna here in Italy to do the launch. We had the party with Lisa Loudon. This is where we kind of officially met. But going back, I think we have crossed paths with each other. Certainly know a lot of people on that scene. Through Ibiza, the likes of Elvis, Howard, Brandon Block, Lisa, and the likes. But we've definitely crossed paths in my sequin dress or high heels or whatever it may be.
I mean, what wild times they were as well. It was just like a massive expression, almost like stepping into fantasy island. Where anything is possible, everyone is welcome. No kind of. It just felt so free and easy and a lot of love and joy in the air to me anyway. But I won't spoil your flow, man. You go for it.
No, it's interesting though. It's really interesting because there's bits at the beginning of the book where you yourself, the author, has touched on your experience in Ibiza, and I just want to get into that in a moment. But can you just go back a little bit, as you as a photographer, as a young man growing up born in Southend, right?
Yeah. Well, that's where I am at the moment. So I'm actually beaming live and direct from Southend, like so the Essex Massive. I'm down in Southend as we speak. In my it's a different colour now, but this is the bedroom. Like we've got a bit of a sofa bed in here now. But this is the bedroom where I grew up, all those years ago. And grew up in Southend. And so it was really that sort of time, like when I joined sort of senior school, it was 1979. So that was right at that kind of cross point where there's so many youth subcultures going on, and you saw all sorts of stuff all the time. Even though it wasn't like a study, I wasn't like analytically thinking, it's science to science. It was all there. It was just all ever present, all around you. On the way to school, you were seeing, punks, skinheads, Teds, mods, rockers, greasers, everything. The whole gamut, rockabillys. Maybe the Teds are driving the buses. All this sort of stuff. And so, I have to say, in Southend especially, it's like a real pressure cooker of all of that. It was, I think, historically as well, the place itself always attracted, people coming from London on Beanos. Prince Regent, like many decades ago, would come down, and it was like that became the place to go. And so it attracted people from London, like from the East End, and they would come down on day trips. And so you're getting a lot of sort of culture that was coming into the area. But then what developed was the culture unto itself. And so places like the Kursaal First Amusement Park, was like in Southend, and you would get bands visiting. And like in the 1960s, there was a great mod scene here, really was. And but there was everything, there was rock, there was everything going on at the same time. And so picking up on all that really sort of like inspired me, and then that's how I sort of developed my kind of I suppose like love of all of that. And it was, as I say, it was not like a study, it's just more like natural. It's coming in, it's part of the fabric of who you are. It's not like I'm going to put on a jumper this week. It's like that's who you are, that's your DNA.
And how did you start getting into what is now your I guess your bread and butter, or what you do best is the photography? When you first picked up the camera and thought, this is what I want to do now, how did that evolve?
Yeah, well, it was a kind of bit of a chain of events. I mean, I was a latecomer to it, really, to be honest with you, because as I say, I got really into the mod scene, and that was because I just felt an affinity to the clothes, the attitude, and kind of what represented as well. It was welcoming of such music as soul music, R&B. There was like reggae, ska, all of that sort of thing. I felt that's what I loved, and I loved the sort of notion of all this culture from all over the world kind of fusing together, and sort of you could find that within the sort of what could be termed as like the mod scene. But so I was kind of into it, but then time goes on. I kind of got into sort of, I thought I was going to be a fashion designer, but at my school, it wasn't set up for that sort of thing. I didn't even really know what that was, but I wanted to be one. I wanted to be like Pierre Cardin or something with the sort of super, but I had no concept that there was, like, I'm just going to say the school I went to was, I have to say, it was a great school, but it was a school where you failed the 11 plus. And this is not like, well, I'm not talking about a kind of privileged background here. I'm talking about just getting by. But like the old mod saying goes, it's like, you're basically clean living under difficult circumstances. You're kind of going, you're making the best of it.
Did you not train as a tailor?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Suits you, sir.
So exactly. I mean, if in the next room, there's even some things I made. Like I made a nice overcoat for the City and Guilds. That was nice. Matching trousers, inspired by Steve Marriott. There's a great clip you'll be able to see on YouTube where they're playing outside, and he's got this lovely, like, high collar kind of suit on. Anyway, so I started to really get into that sort of thing. But remember, this is before the internet, right? So you're talking about times where it might be fanzines, or it might be word of mouth. And so that's not necessarily precise. So you're kind of picking up on stuff as you go. And you might go to Southend Market at Roots Hall, the football ground, on a Saturday morning. They used to have a great second-hand market there. And you'd be picking up all these clothes and going, wow, that kind of looks good. And then, of course, there was the book called Mods that came out. It was a really crucial book. It was the same sort of time as Quadrophenia came out, and it was a masterstroke, really, because the film came out, and then there was this book as well. It's originally published on Ill Pie Publishing, and which was Pete Townshend's book label at the time. And subsequently it's been reproduced on lots of different publishers. But I have to say that became something that at school it would be passed around. I mean, I've still got my original copy. All the pages are all fallen out. It's all bent up and everything, well thumbed, and you're looking at it going, oh my God, look at that. Like that suede front top with the white trousers and the suede desert boots. Oh, so you're trying to look for that stuff. But where do you even find it? You can't go online and just go and buy it, so you're basically being resourceful. And you're going, oh, there's a shoe shop downtown. They do chisel front shoes. I'll have a bit of that, this, that, and the other. Anyway, so I started to get into all that. And, but then also, this is a bit of a jump. I also started to kind of like rallycross racing as well.
Oh, okay.
And it's a bit of a curveball here, but it does all connect up, because I was like, me and my mate used to go to like Brands Hatch, and we used to watch rallycross. And I was a bit like, oh, okay, this is really good. I wanted to take some pictures, and then a bit like, don't really know what I'm doing. And so we went to an evening class and did the evening class and learnt a bit. And I was like, oh, well, I really like this. And then I felt like it was a way of, I don't know, like sort of bringing it together. And then, I mean, as another total sideline, I then started to actually, I bought a mini cross car. So that's like a rallycross, but just with 850 minis. And then I did that for a bit. But then I was getting more into the photography, and I was like as a hobby, you know what I mean? And then I was like, oh, I really want to take this further. And so, I mean, I'm jumping quite a lot here, but just saying, I wanted to take it further, and I wanted to take the photography further. So I sort of stopped doing spending all the money on the mini cross car that, and I sort of then thought, right, I really, really love photography, and that's what I want to do. And so I basically chucked everything up and went and did a degree in Blackpool. And so that's how I then, but I should also say that one of the times that was really significant for me was going down Southend Market when I was, in my mod sort of like phase, looking for records. And I remember so well, I come to this stall, and they had a load of like Trojan, ska reggae, rocksteady, Trojan, all sorts of that. That's like a box full of that. And I was looking through it, and this bloke come along, and he looked like a terrifying guy, like really like big guy, skinny guy. And I was like, oh. So anyway, so he starts looking through as well. And then I just thought like, I felt this kind of compunction to speak to him. I was like, I can't help myself. I was like, all right, mate, and then we got chatting in a way. And now normally that could have been, in them days, that could have been, depending on your haircut, you might just get a smack in the mouth. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying that I was like, oh, right, yeah. And so the music sort of, in a way, kind of united us, like looking through these boxes. And I was like, all right, mate. And he was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, look, don't mind me asking, but I've just started photography, and can I take your picture, And he's like, yeah, I'm an artist. And I was like, oh, yeah? And he went, yeah, I make sculptures out of wood and like nails and stuff like that. Do you want to come around and photograph me with that? That's fine. I was like, okay. So I went round to his house, and honestly, he's a top guy, really nice bloke. And he made all these almost like small Easter Island sculptures, but embellished with rusty nails. And he makes them with machetes and stuff. So I photographed him. No, but this is the thing. So I photographed him. We had a great time chatting to his partner as well, and she's like into fashion, as it turned out, and so immediately transported into their world. And he was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm a guardian angel. I go up London on the tubes. Do you want to come with me? And we'll go around on the tubes." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So boom. So before you know it, I'm traveling around with them, and this is all through this is through photography, you know what I mean?
Wow.
And that's the beauty of it. It's not like, oh, you need to shoot it at f8. It's like, forget all that. It's about part of the fabric of what you are. It's not about just like, and you asked the question about like the day-to-day thing. I actually kind of, whatever I do, it becomes part of the fabric of everything. And nothing is exclusive in a way, you know what I mean? So it's a bit like, coming to Bologna, that is as crucial a part of like photography as you could say. Even though we was there playing records and celebrating a book, it was as much a part of photography as actually taking a picture. It's this sort of notion of a kind of sort of strange sort of entity that moves forward, that involves images and culture, I would say. You know what I mean?
I love that. It's interesting. I remember those guardian angels that were on the tube. It was like a take from New York, wasn't it?
That's right. That's where it
Yeah.
That's where it started. I mean,
So what sort of age? How old was you? What period of time was that? Mid-80s, late 80s? Sorry.
yeah. So that would have been bearing in mind on another strata of things. So musically, obviously, I was into R&B and soul and northern soul and psych music, and and I'm very much a person who sort of like accumulates stuff. I don't dispose with stuff. I'm not like, this week I'm mainly into soul music and I'll just throw everything else away. So I accumulated all that sort of stuff. But so the period we're talking about there, that was very much like your kind of 87, sort of 86, 87. So there were, like, in Southend, once again, just going back to it. I mean, there's a very good. I'm jumping around here, so for the listener, hopefully this is okay. But I'm just saying, I'm jumping around because all this stuff, like, for example, sport. Have you heard of Sports Banger?
No.
Okay, so Sports Banger, you got to check him out, man. He's like, does stuff. He kind of messes with things, and he's got like, I think the T-shirt goes something along the lines of, before House, before Ibiza, there was Essex. You know what I mean? It's a great T-shirt. I shouldn't have told, because I've got one, and like everyone's going to go and get one now. But they're really good. And so what he's doing is, and it comes back to what I'm saying, around that period, that sort of like somewhere between sort of 85 and 87, there was a lot of, obviously, I was starting to kind of hear people like Snowboy DJing at Scruples. There was obviously the gold mine was going on. I didn't make it down there then. I was just not on my sort of radar to be there. But I started to really love all that sort of, you could say somewhere between jazz, funk, like Donald Byrd stuff and expansions, and it felt to me like an extension of the mod sound. It's jazz. That's what it is. It's progressive. It's not static. It's not just listening to the same stuff. It's thinking, how does it all fit together? And then there's the whole rare groove thing came in, and there was a club down there called Chester's or Waves, depending on what time you went there. They changed it. It changed its name. But anyway, DJs like Gary Dennis and Horace, like Giles Peterson would come down occasionally. I think Norman J. You were getting really good DJs, and it was that period where it was ushering in this wonderful collection of like, it was like art, soul, like rare groove meets hip hop meets early acid house, so that would have been the sort of 88, 89 sort of period.
I remember it well. It well because obviously, as well, as like our dear friend Eddie Pillar created the label Acid Jazz, which is gone on to be a genre style of music. So I totally agree with you with that period of that movement of soul, funk, jazz, reggae, that rare groove, that soul funk scene on Dingwalls or wherever it may be in London and places like that. And then obviously we moved into the acid house. But what I'd like to do, Dean, is move more forward into yourself and how you got to become the photographer where you were working and snapping these artists. I mean, we've got so much to talk about. We've got Dazed and Confused in the mid-90s, and then we've got Mixmag, and then I'd really like to get more into the book. So can we move on to like with your Dazed and Confused days, how that came about?
Yeah, definitely. So what happened is, I was studying. What I did is I chucked it all up and I was like, right, I'm going to go and do this degree now. And so I looked around, what's the best course to go on? And Blackpool at that time was one of the best courses in the country. And so I went up there and managed to get on the course, and not through academia, because, in all honesty, the beauty of it was that if you didn't have to be an academic genius, but you had to have passion. And you had to have the need to feel like you wanted to do it. And so I joined the course, and at that time I was really, I was loving things like the Face magazine, ID, all that sort of stuff. I was really loving what they were doing. And so it was in one of the holidays, I came down and I thought, who am I going to go and see? I'm going to come, go to London, come down to Southend, go up to London, let's go and see a few people. And I managed to go and see Dazed and Confused. But it was when it was really early days, for it. And I went in there and I happened to see a bloke called Phil Pointer, who was Rankin's assistant. And I showed him my stuff and he was like, oh, yeah, this is good. And he was like, oh, Rankin, come over. Because so Rankin was literally, it was one tiny office. And he's like, oh, come over. And so he had a look. And I was like, oh, you know, what do you think? And he's like, oh yeah, you know, I wouldn't bother going back to college, you know, just crack on, you know. And I was like, well, I just want to, you know, I feel like I want to finish it off, but amazing. And he was like, you know, and they both were like, well, they had a shoot done with a great woman artist called Helen Chadwick, but unfortunately they didn't like what had been done, and so they're like, oh well, what are you doing tomorrow? Maybe you could do a shoot for us. And so I was like, well, okay. And that, of course, that put the fear right on me, because I was like, oh no, I thought I was just coming to have a like show off a bit, and now I've actually got a job. Oh no, my career's over. Oh no. So, but no, you know what? You know, bless them, man. They were good on them for letting me do that, because they kind of liked it. And then I ended up doing more and more stuff for them whilst I was at Blackpool. So I was sometimes coming down to photograph different people, sometimes artists, sometimes musicians. Yeah, like all different things. And I'd done stuff for fanzines prior to that as well, like Sonic Inducer and things like that, you know, like lots of little things. And so, yeah, so that's kind of where that started. And then when I left Blackpool, when I completed that degree, I came down and I just wanted to show people my stuff. And so obviously doing stuff for Dazed was great, but I wanted to broaden the net a little bit. And so I went to see some Sunday supplements, and they kind of liked it, but they take the risk, you know, and letting me do it. And so I just jumped in and did it. And then also at Dazed and Confused, I met a woman called Paola Cimino, and then Paola, she was there. She's Italian, and she worked at Dazed, basically with Rankin, to organise exhibitions in Italy for him. And so, but we just happened to get chatting. She had another little project going on, and so I got involved in doing something for that. And then, but then what happened is then Paola went and looked for another job, and it was at Mixmag where she settled to do this job. And it was at the moment where they kind of were repositioning themselves, changing a little bit. The late great Dom Phillips, fantastic, God rest his soul. He was the editor. My first job was with Dom, photographing the propeller heads at Mixmag, that is, over in Iceland. We went to Iceland, photographed the propeller heads, doing DJ and set out there. And then, but what happened is it was like the changing of the guard a little bit. So Dom and some of the people that were the journalists there at the time, like, left Mixmag, and a guy called Neil Stevenson came in, who's another fantastic, like, genius editor, really had his own personality, brought in a few other people, and they wanted to sort of change the notion of how the magazine was. And so so they asked if I would do some, you know, more stuff for them, and I did. And this is how it led on to me going to Ibiza. And that's what I should say, is the book deals with a specific time frame. This is not like just general Ibiza. This is
absolutely,
this is Ibiza 1998 to 2003.
2003. You've captured it amazingly within the book. I mean, you speak about Neil Stevenson here, and there's a little quote he writes inside, is that Dean's skills and his ability to make the subject feel comfortable with him. But some of it is illustrated in how the world has changed. And that moment, I think, in Ibiza has gone, you know, because it's you know, as you quoted as well, the party wasn't over, but it would never be the same.
HarangThe DJ.
People you've taken photos of over the years. I mean, the list is endless. You know, from Jules Holland to Amy Whitehouse to Suede, Norman J. It's incredible. I love that photo of Jules Holland with the piano photo. It's beautiful. So
I mean, but this is the thing, right? I feel like energized by things, you know, and I'm not like too cool for school person. So if someone says, what about, are you interested in doing this? I'll kind of like think of it in terms of like in a bigger picture sort of sense as well. So I photograph lots of different people, and I put myself sometimes in positions where I think, should I do this or not? And then but then when I'm invested in doing it in my mind, then I really like throw myself absolutely into it, and I make it part of what I do. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I've photographed lots of different people over the years. Like it could be Paul McCartney or Beyonce, like Jay-Z, lots of different people in lots of different worlds. But to me, it all connects together, because even like if we think about Dizzy Rascal, for example, Boy in the Corner, you know, that album, I photographed that album cover, and which to a lot of people is like a very seminal piece of artwork. And you know, and also as you mentioned, like with Amy Winehouse, you know, I mean, she was absolutely incredible, and you know, so when she sadly passed away, the NME put a picture on the cover. Now, normally at that time, I mean, we're fast forwarding a bit here, because obviously I was doing the Ibiza stuff and whatnot for Mixmag, but with Amy Winehouse and a lot of those musicians that we're talking about now, that was into the NME times. That I did a lot for the NME as well. But you know, a lot of magazines would have a lot of cover lines on at the time. So, you know, you'd have like, this week in the magazine, it's this, that, and the other. And, you know, they were quite crowded, quite congested on the cover. But when they did the one of Amy Winehouse, they removed all of those words, and it was just a picture. And it was very, very strong. It sort of said it all, you know. And I mean, it was an absolute honor to meet her, I have to say. You know what I mean? It really, you know, that's the thing about photography as well. And this is like for everybody, is like, you don't even know the power of it until the people that are in those pictures are not there anymore. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, and the only thing in life you can guarantee is that everything is going to change. And so if you've got something like that, and you kind of look back on it, it's like, oh wow, that's the vitality of it. And forget all about like, oh, we can make everything with AI now. It's like, that's one other thing. Fine, all good, whatever, don't matter. But I'm just saying that there's a picture of that person, and that is very, very crucial. It's very vital. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's amazing. You talk about that era with Dazed and Confused and NME and the Face magazine, ID magazine. That era of magazines for the young listeners who are tuned in, the magazine was something you'd buy in a newsagent, and you'd open up these magazines and you'd see some fantastic photographs and articles about fashion and culture, etc., etc. So that's a moment in time in itself with the magazines and that kind of stuff. How did you get to find yourself in Ibiza? Let's get into the book of
Right.
back in Ibiza.
Well,
how you found yourself there, because I know you've got an interesting story of when you arrived in Ibiza.
That's right.
If you'd like to enlighten us with that.
Yeah, well, so leading up to me going out there, you know, what they said at the magazine is like, you know, because I'd not been there before. Remember, I mean, I was totally aware of it. You know, I used to go to raves back in like 1989, like Energy, Sunrise, all those raves around the M25. That's what we was getting into then. But anyway, I didn't actually find my way out to Ibiza until Mixmag said, do you want to go to Ibiza? And that was in 1998, right? And so, I'll be honest with you, at the back of my mind, I was a bit like, yeah, but, you know, I'm not sure it's going to be any good anymore, but it probably. And then, do you know what? So what normally used to happen was they would send a photographer and a journalist, a writer, and that would be like a team. And then you'd go out there for like a week, and then you do do the story, and you come back with the thing, and they'll publish it. And so they said, look, we've got 4 pages. If you can just go out there, just get a flavour of what's going on, and then come back, and we'll, you know, that'll be the feature, 4 pages. And so I went out there with a journalist, and I'm not going to mention his name because it'd be unfair, but he's a lovely guy. I'm just saying. But we went out there, and we arrived, and you know how it is. You kind of touch down, and you pick up the hire car. We had a little drive around. We kind of everywhere was kind of closed a little bit. It was sort of in the middle of the day. We found ourselves at 5 km. Sat laid in the sort of hammock for a bit, you know, little walk around, you know, drive around a bit. And then that night, in classic style, by the way, when we got to the hotel, there wasn't sorted out actually. So we ended up staying above Mambo that night. And anyway, next day we went to Manumission. And Trade had the back room at Manumission at the time.
I remember.
And, yeah, I mean, brilliant. So fast forward like throughout the whole night, and then right at the end, I was like, I nearly said his name then. I'm gonna. I'm like, I'm gonna go back now. Are you gonna? And he's like, do you know what? I'm just gonna head off with these guys, and and I was like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. Anyway, so I left him there. I went back, and then next morning I was like, that's funny because he ain't come back yet. And anyway, and then the next day he had come back, and I was like, so I phoned the magazine up. And bearing in mind, you couldn't use you couldn't use a mobile because it cost you about 400 quid a minute. And so I went to the payphone and I was like, he ain't come back. What do you want me to do? And they were like, oh, okay, hold on, leave it with us. We'll try and track him down. But in the meantime, do you just want to carry on? And I'll be honest with you, that's the last time I ever saw him because he never came back. Now I know he's all right. He's all right. I was just saying, everybody, don't worry. He's all right. He was having a great time, but he's off in his own, rave mission. But anyway, so the magazine just said, look, do you just want to carry on? Just crack on if you're happy to do that. And I was like, well, I'm not a writer though, but I'll carry on. And the way I was approaching it wasn't like I'm just here to photograph clubbers or DJs. I just felt overwhelmed by the fantasy and wonder of this place. It was like, what on earth is this? And so I just photographed like everything to give a feeling of the whole thing as a sort of experience, And so I came back. So I was out there for about, I think it was about a week, something like that. It might have been 10 days or something. And then I came back and I sort of went into the office, the Mixmag offices, and I showed them what I had, and they were like, oh my God. And so they basically scrapped the entire notion of 4 pages and they made it into a 30-page feature with no writing at all, apart from
fantastic
little captions. And but what it did is it brought the focus onto the experience, but also onto the clubbers and the joy of that whole thing, what was going on, and the otherworldliness of it all. It wasn't like, oh, look, here's another dark corner sweaty club thing. It wasn't like that. It was like the vibrancy of the whole and the energy of the whole place was transmitted through these pictures. And I brought it along here today, but I actually use this particular camera, and it's an unusual camera. This is not like, no one uses this camera, never at that time, like no one at all. And I took a bit of a chance.
What camera is that? What camera is that, Dean? Just for the listeners.
There you go. It's a Fuji GA 645WI. There you go. Boom. Talk about nerdy. But anyway, and it says professional. So there you go. Look, when you got a camera that says professional, and it must.
It's going on. It's going on. Yeah.
But the reason I use that camera, the reason I took it out there, is because it shoots medium format film, and what that means is the negative is bigger than up to that moment. Bearing in mind, people weren't photographing digitally at the time. People were photographing on film only. Digital didn't really exist as a medium then for photography, and so not in a general sense. And so, but I knew that if I used a medium format camera, the way the colors would render, the way the detail of the pictures would be, they could use those pictures, for example, on the cover, and they would keep the kind of the energy, the brightness, and the saturation of the image would be intact. Whereas if you're using a smaller one and blowing it up, it kind of loses it a bit. And so, and that's what happened. They were blown away, and that's why they kind of went, bang, let's make a 30-page feature. And then, funnily enough, I mean, I've remained friends with Paola, and Paola was involved in making the book back in Ibiza, 1998, 2003. I'm just saying, everybody. Anyway, but Paola was involved in the editing of that. I've remained friends with Paola, and she's been a great advocate of that series of work. And even like today, she's she just loves that work, and she's the one actually who's been saying, you should do something with this, and it's a matter of timing. It's getting the right time to create a book like that. But I'll tell you what, the time is now for a number of reasons. And really, it's like people are reflecting on that period well now. There was a time where some people were a bit snotty about it. They're like, oh, well, it wasn't as good as it was in... It's like, actually, it was like an amazing time.
It really was.
If you could distill that time, it would be a very potent sort of elixir of life right there. But it was a great time. But also you're getting young people that are looking back at the 90s, like late 90s, early noughties fashion now, and they're going, oh my God, this is... And there's also the freedom of the moment. Everyone's not just standing around photographing each other on their own mobile phones,
I was going to say, yeah, because there's a great clip actually on some social thing where you've got the essence of the 90s. I think it's in DC-10, where it's just absolute carnage. People's hands are in the air and enjoying that moment. And then one of last year where literally a whole dance floor's got their phone in their hand.
Yeah.
Filming a DJ. And it's just like, that...
I know.
I think that essence of where we had that moment in the 90s and a bit of the noughties, what you've capsulated inside the book, is priceless. People, like you mentioned, people will say, oh, back in the 80s or the 70s, Ibiza was different. And we're going back to that thing about change. But I think what we had then was that freedom of that love, and there's no phones, and people used to get kicked out of clubs taking pictures. So I don't know how you got away with it.
Yeah, well, that's because, and I do believe this. I never, the pictures that I take are like celebratory. They're not sort of like, what's the word? They're not like nasty pictures or nothing like that. Do you know what I mean? They are really... I believe everyone in those pictures are the heroes, of it all. And that's why the trust of the people who run the clubs to allow me to go into those clubs. Like we were talking the other day actually about space. You're right. It was like very much like locked down, but the people that used to run it, I used to speak to them, and they were quite happy for me to go in there. They gave me the permission to do that because they knew that I was doing it with like a kind heart. You know what I mean? I'm not like... It's the way you approach it, it's like, and if it's like a vehicle, you can drive a car in a kind of nice way, or you can try and smash people up with it. You know what I mean? It's how you use it, and it's being conscious of that and knowing and understanding that. Once again, comes back to photography. It's not all about just pressing a button. It's about thinking about what you're actually doing and saying,
But it's interesting you to say that, because you talk about the digital aspect of just where you just click, and then edit after. I suppose back in the day when you're taking fit with real film, you've got to get that picture right, because you don't want to be wasting shitloads of money on film.
Well, that's definitely right, and particularly with this camera, because it takes less frames than a like 35mm camera. But at the same time, I used to go around and I used to put like rolls and rolls of it in the boot because of the car. Bearing in mind that's in the scorching heat and something, you know what I mean? It's not a good idea. But what else could you do? Because I didn't want to run out of film, because that would be like disaster for me, because I'd be like, oh no. So, and even, we forget all this stuff really. Even going through the X-ray machines always puts the fear on you, because you're putting rolls of film through an X-ray machine. And there was this thing where like you can insist for it to be hand searched and so on and so forth. But, when there's a queue of people behind you and everyone's getting moody and everything, it's like, you have to take care with those things. High ISO film and X-ray machines are not the best of friends, I've got to tell you. But luckily, I think just like there was one occasion where I had a little bit of damage, I was all right. And so, but just going back to what you're saying as well, James, and this is honest, I believe this as well, that every era has its own, massively positive aspects as well. So whether it was, you could even say like the 50s and 60s in Ibiza, there was like a kind of a little jazz scene and this, that, and the other, and there was people going there to, sort of perhaps escape, certain things. And then into the 60s, more so, you get people going over to perhaps even like dodged the draft of Vietnam and things like this and all sorts of stuff. And you're getting people magnetized for like more of a hippie side of things. That's wonderful. And then into the 70s and the 80s, 90s. But even now, it's not, I'm really not down on anything, but it is different. And life does change, but that's not to say, but also the period we're in now won't remain the same forever as well. And I think people will probably press the reset button a little bit and go, there's more to life than just everyone standing there filming the same thing. I mean, I watched a thing last night on the telly, and there's loads of people walking around an arena with their mobile phones, all filming the same thing. And it's like, why are you doing that? Even it's just for your brand, because you have to prove you're there. But to be honest with you, you're all getting the same thing anyway. I don't really know why you're doing it, and you're not living the moment. You're
not living the moment.
Yeah, you're performatively living the moment. Like, look at me. It's more like, well, just enjoy the moment, though. You don't have to pretend that you're having a great time. Just have a great time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's like the way society is today with TikTok and Instagram, and it's trying to selfies and want to be in that moment. It's like, enjoy the moment. It's interesting. You're talking about Ibiza. We're talking about Ibiza and how it's evolved over the years. You talk about the hippie trail running through Ibiza, going on into India, and I think Ibiza is the only town or city that has got a statue of a hippie in the town centre of Ibiza town, and it's like a bronze statue of this guy walking along with a joint in his hand. But going on into what I'm trying to say is, I think we kind of, the 90s was that last sort of era when it then stepped over into the noughties, and we'll touch on that, where from my personal experience being there in the late 90s and living over there, it kind of shifted, it changed, didn't it? In the early noughties, there was a change that kind of happened. My experience was, and where it became the super club, the superstar DJs, the billboards, and the VIP, and there was a lot of people coming over with money, and it kind of was slowly taking away that hippie essence vibe of Ibiza. It's still there, but it's become, I think, what I'm trying to say is, like with music culture as well, dance music's become very mainstream now. The likes of Calvin Harris and what's the other guy's name?
David Guetta and people.
David Guetta, thank you. Exactly. So it's kind of shifted, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that is, it's very easy to forget that. Just rewinding the conversation to, like, you could say 1986. 87, when you're first hearing Rock the House, for example, by the Cookie Crew, it's like, what is this? What? I've never heard this before. Or the first time you've heard Voodoo Ray by a guy called Gerald, it's like, but what, and so it's very hard. You can never hear something for the first time twice, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
So
I can still smell the warehouse I was in when I heard that record, Voodoo Ray. I can listen to that song and I can smell and visualize the warehouse I was at. So
absolutely, but
I'd like to just talk about the book.
Oh yeah, sorry.
For the view, no, we'll get into that. But I'm joined here.
What, you mean the book? Hold on. How did that get here?
Harang the DJ.
So how did the book come about, Dean, back in Ibiza?
Yeah, so the book came about because obviously I took all those pictures in that period, 1998 to 2003, and then they came out in Mixmag, and that was that. And then pretty much they kind of resided in the neg file, on the shelf for a while, and then it was probably about I reckon about 8 years ago or something like that, maybe around that time, where I started to think it'd be good to do something with these pictures. And I spoke to Paola, who was the picture editor at Mixmag back in the day, the person who originally asked me to go to Ibiza. And I was like, what should we do? What should we do? And this, that. She was a very great advocate of it all. And so but it was unclear what I was going to do. So I was thinking maybe an exhibition or something. We went some way down the line about doing something over in Ibiza. But then what happened is all the lockdown, through the development of that period, lockdown happened, and it just felt like the wrong time to do anything like that. Anyway, as we climbed out of those horrible times, Paola was like, "Come on, what are you going to do with this stuff?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not quite sure if it's the right time." And then I started to look back at the pictures, and I was like, actually, it's exactly the right time, because now we're all coming out of this sort of hibernation, and it feels like we can take a breath and we can sort of look back at this. And and then basically I kind of thought, well, let's make a presentation deck with some ideas of like what it wants to be, how it kind of wants to be loosely. And so I did that with my friend Kieran O'Shea and Paola. We just got together, fused a few ideas together, and then I asked a few people if they knew any book publishers. And anyway, so I kind of messaged one guy, and he was like, "Yeah, it'd be interesting to have a meeting." And so we had a meeting, and I took Paola and Kieran along, because I'm really loyal when it comes down to things like this. You know what I mean? They're in it, and it feels like part of, we're all in it. And
Fantastic.
yeah, and so we had a meeting with this guy, and we showed him the ideas, and he was like, "I love it. I mean, yeah, if you're up for doing it, I can see you all know what you're doing. So just, we're happy to trust you to do it if you want to do it." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And it turns out, because I thought, maybe he was a guy who worked at the company, but he was the CEO of the company. I looked him up after it, I was like, "Oh my word!" And he was totally behind it. And ACC Art Books is the publishers. And I got to tell you, they were fantastic, because they didn't make me do anything I didn't want. They were fully supportive. They helped if I had any questions, but they were like, "Look, we trust you to make this thing, and as good as you," because they knew that it means so much to me and to Kieran and Paola as well. But they trusted us with it implicitly. Even down to things like, what the cover's like, and you can see that's got gloss. See that's hello. He's got one as well. But you can see it's glossy, and I'll tell you what, if you look at the amount of, you could say, art photography books that have got gloss covers, there's not that many. And because I don't know why, but people are terrified of using gloss because they think, "Oh, it's not going to be cool enough. I need it to be varnished matte," and but do you know what? That's originally I was thinking it's probably going to be like that. And then I went and had a look at some examples, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's got to be gloss. The vibrancy, the plasticity, the energy of the cover. Look, it's like, but it's debossed. So if you feel the front cover, we're getting proper cosmic. We're getting micro detail now. But if you feel that front cover, it feels like it's raised, but it's actually the image that's set back. And that was Kieran's idea. And he was like it's like back in a bit, it's like in the part, the picture is coming from the past.
Oh,
and,
brilliant.
but it shows you like the devil is in the detail. You know what I mean? It's like, but everything about it, even this character at the back here, see that? There's a little character, a little illustration, and that is actually our representation of Bess, which is a deity. I mean, everyone, you're going to have to look it up yourself, man. It's like the protector, but also the protector of kind of partying and having a good time. And that's a deity that is very prevalent in Ibiza. So that's,
I don't know where he was when I was partying out there. It certainly did protect me. I know I got missed many a flights, etc. But really, Dean, you've captured this moment in time so nicely, and it just shows what a fantastic and free experience these people were having. I mean, there's so much in there, and for anybody who would like to kind of experience it, I guess. Yeah. It's in there. It's all in there. It's all in there.
I mean, the thing is, I'm sure, James, I know you and I know people that they went to Ibiza on a holiday and they still live in there, and that's like 40 years later. Do you know what I mean? That it's that sort of place. It really captures people's like imagination. It changes people's lives. And even if you did just go there for a holiday one time, I bet you everyone's got a memory that is their Ibiza experience, and I really love that as well, because it's not always one thing or the other, because some people, they might have a radically different experience of going there, but that's totally valid as well. Some people might just go to a yoga retreat, for example, and have the most amazing time and get in touch with, get all the chakras in line and all that sort of stuff. And, and you know what I'm saying? Or some people are in the West End of San Antonio just going absolutely mad for like a week but that's equally as valid. And I love that, because within one island, it's such a spectrum of things to,
well, you've got
to
all
do.
the different nationalities of people. You've got a heavy presence of the Dutch, the Germans, obviously the Spanish, the English, all coming together, all under one roof. And that house is everybody's. I mean, the times we had on the Space Terrace, which is now Hyatt discotheque, on those Sunday mornings were incredible. We had the Manumission carry-ons and there was a huge push with the American DJs coming over. God bless his soul, Murillo and all the Frankie Knuckles, all them American DJs coming over and playing some real nice music, and encapsulating that.
Absolutely. And at that time, I think, and that is crucial, isn't it, James? Like at that time, even though there was still VIP, there was a VIP area, but it literally was a rope that you could just climb. You just like raise a leg and you're in the VIP area. It wasn't all sort of like sectioned off massively, but the unity on the dance floor, like everyone's rubbing shoulders with each other, and that cross pollination, and there's something magical about that expansion of, someone comes into a place, perhaps they're just going on holiday, and then all of a sudden, as was illustrated by, you could say Oakenfold and all that lot back in the day, where they just went on holiday, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, their world has been changed because they've heard Alfredo, DJing, and it's not to be underrated. The power of that is important, and that's inspirational. It's absolutely inspirational, and it's beautiful and magical, I think. You know what I mean? Without getting too hippie about it,
Fantastic. So, Dean, tell me, the book, when it's out, it's released. We've been doing a few launch parties. As we know, you were here in Bologna. You came over with Paolo and our great friend Piero Casanova.
Yep.
We had Lisa Loud with us. You've been doing some other events around London and in the UK, promoting the book Back in Ibiza.
Yeah.
Can we get it from all good bookstores?
Yeah, all good bookstores. You can get it online too. I would say, galleries as well. Certain galleries stock it as well. But yeah, if you look up Back in Ibiza, 1998 to 2003, and Dean Chalkley, it will come up if you just search for that online. Or, if you are in a gallery or bookshop and you ask them for it and they say, we haven't got it, you just say to them, why not? I thought this was a good bookshop or gallery. I demand to get it.
How's the book been received? I mean,
really well, man.
It's amazing. The book's incredible. You've captured those 5 years you were there in that moment of time beautifully. And the parties, and how have they been going? Because I know you've had some very cool DJs playing alongside you, right?
Yeah, so the book's been received really well, and even people like, for example, CNN did a big thing on it over in America, which was amazing. Like, it's amazing to hear to see how it reaches. It's like Carlsberg, it reaches the parts that other beers can't reach, or whatever they used to say. I don't even know what they used to say, but it's the book that reaches parts that other books can't reach. But yeah, so I did a launch party in a place called Century, which is in London. Century.
I know it well.
Yeah, we did a Q&A there with Lisa Loud, Duncan Dick, who was another great editor of Mixmag from back in the day, who also contributed to the book, and a guy. So there's also the Bureau of Lost Culture. Everyone, I'm cross advertising other podcasts here, but anyway, check out the Bureau of Lost Culture. So that the guy that makes that also interviewed us there at Century, and then we did this party there. And what's nice about that venue is you can pull the roof back, and it feels like open to the stars. It was a beautiful night. It was at the beginning, like the end of May, beginning of June, and it was like beautiful sun, underneath the stars. Lisa Loud, Nancy Noyes DJing as well. Great DJs. Johnny Russell as well, or JR as he's known.
We love Johnny, yeah.
Fantastic tunes all night. And then, but almost simultaneously, so I did an exhibition there as well, and almost simultaneously I did something at the Social as well, because they were really into the book, and because Century Club is a members club, it wasn't so much for the public, whereby apart from our night where people could come in, whereas the Social, we did an exhibition upstairs in the bar, and then I did also a party upstairs, but also on another occasion a party downstairs, and once again got Lisa Loud, Nancy Noyes, and Harrison Guyot to DJ, as well as Gavin Mills, who some people might know as DJ Face, or but he used to be a resident at El Divino for Defected Records for many years. A great friend of mine, a fantastic DJ as well.
We actually had our own night on a Monday with Alex P and Brandon Block. We were doing Monday nights called Chic, which was another story in itself, as you can imagine.
Yeah. But yeah, and then of course that's when we met officially was over in Bologna, which was so Piero Casanova, as we said. I mean, he's a force of nature, isn't he? He's like he's like a kind of like entity, a dynamo, a person who just likes to get things going. He's very passionate about just doing great stuff, and he was like, I'd love to do something around the book, and so that's what we did. And we did like lovely projections in Bologna. We did lovely projections. We got Lisa out. I mean, fantastic that you could DJ, James, because I mean, great tunes. And we didn't restrict it, did we? We didn't restrict it to that period. It was like across the board. That's the beauty of it. We used it as a springboard, like that period, but it then went all over the place. And I put a few tunes on as well. And it was bloody good. I'm just saying.
It was a great night. It was a great night. And again, it's like those moments of bringing people together and celebrating what was, in my eyes, probably the best era of Ibiza around that time.
Yeah. We also did something earlier that night as well. We did something at a great record shop in Bologna called Sem, and Walter Guadagnini did a Q&A with Walter in the store there, and Lisa, because the way it's arranged there, the DJ is actually in the window of the store, and the people there were so nice, weren't they? I mean, you came down, didn't you, James?
Exactly. Yeah, it was amazing.
They were so supportive, so nice, very welcoming, and there was a crowd of people outside, crowd of people inside. They broadcast the sound in and out, and it was just a great happening, man. It just felt so good, and largely though, just coming back to it, Piero was the person who enabled all that to happen, and Paola came out as well. Just great. Everyone just seems to be into it, and that's like that the whole project, the whole Back in Ibiza thing, it feels like it magnetizes good people to come to it, and then we just do stuff, just do stuff, and it won't stop there. There will be stuff in the future, some of which I can't even say yet under strict rules. I can't even say, man. But I'm just saying, keep an eye on the channel.
You've not got an exclusive for us on funk then at the moment.
That is the exclusive. Even me just mentioning it.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's great that you shouted out to Sem record store here in Bologna, independent record store. If you get a chance, if you're in Bologna, check it out. And please do check out the book, Back in Ibiza. It's an amazing book. It's been a real pleasure having you here, Dean. Now I think we're going to need to do a part 2 to get into a bit more with you, because it's been a fun time having you here, and it's been great.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. And you know what? If you want to even get a taster of the book before you jump in, before you fully immerse yourself, if you go to backinibiza.com, I've done a little microsite, so you just get a flavour of what it's like, really. You know what I mean? It's just like a bit of a flavour, and then I can tell you, jump straight in with both feet. That's what you got to do. Thanks for listening. But James, thanks. And Mark in the background. Mark's on the controls. You might not hear him, but he's there. He's ever present. He's overseeing proceedings, making sure that we're all sounding good and all that sort of stuff. But James, thanks for asking us on, and everyone, thanks for listening. I know we've gone on a bit. We've gone way over time, but we don't care. That's how we roll.
We don't care. Thank you so much, Steve, for coming along and to hang out with us on Harang the DJ here on the Funk platform. Over and out.
Harang the DJ.